On today's special episode, I sit down at the North American Bitcoin Conference with Simon Dixon, the CEO of BnkToTheFuture. BnkToTheFuture allows people to invest with as little as $1,000 in the companies of the future. Right now, you can literally invest in Robinhood on their platform, and they have dozens of offerings regularly on the platform that are traditionally only accessible to venture capitalists in Silicon Valley and things like that, but now it's available to the public through tokenization and through security tokens. So you can buy and sell shares in fintech companies like Robinhood and crypto companies like, your Bitfinex and things like that. You have all these cool companies out there that are adding their shares to BnkToTheFuture. First and foremost, this is not a sponsored review. I ran into Simon at the North American Bitcoin Conference. I love what BnkToTheFuture is doing. Very similarly to Grow Your Base, where we're helping get the word out about various different tokenized assets. Simon was a really smart guy and he was fun to talk to. And one of the most interesting things was he talked about the success stories that they've had investing in Kraken, getting a 20,000% return, 5xing their investment for investors in Bitstamp. And it's just a very impressive track record that they have already in the space that is so volatile with so many different players that it is very impressive. And I enjoyed sitting down with him to discuss what's coming with STOs and all the different barriers. So I got a chance to sit down with Simon and talk about STOs off camera as well as on camera, talk about some of the barriers to entry. And without further ado, let's dive right into my interview with Simon. What's up, guys? I am here with Simon Dixon, the CEO of BnkToTheFuture. How are you today, Simon?
Very well. Thanks for having me.
Definitely. So I wanted to share a little bit about this project with you guys. I've mentioned this in the past actually on the channel, and I wanted Simon to share some of the story around like your background and how you started the company. So how did it come about and how long have you been in the space?
Yeah, sure. So it goes back to I was part of something called the monetary reform movement, which was the movement prior to Bitcoin, where we were focused on fractional reserve banking and monetary policy and how it was going to, kill the banking industry and hurt a lot of people. And through that, I came across someone that introduced me to Bitcoin. His name was Johnny Bitcoin. He sent me a message, and he was talking about this alternative financial system that was being built. And he was actually from London, and he moved into a squat in London with a developer called Amir Taki, who was one of the very first developers on Bitcoin. That's how I first got into Bitcoin. We were trying to actually launch a bank. We were calling it BnkToTheFuture. I wrote a book called BnkToTheFuture and it later went on to be the first published book that included Bitcoin. But when Bitcoin actually went on to create essentially the rails, we decided to switch our focus from creating a bank to funding the industry. So we created a platform that would allow us to co-invest in many of the deals that made the crypto industry today. So that's the starting story, really.
Yeah, and you guys have like an amazing portfolio. Your talk was amazing yesterday, and I saw the portfolio slide, and it was like pretty much every iconic brand in the space you guys have invested in and backed. And one of the slides that I wanted to bring up was that you said in 2017, the ICO market kind of disrupted how you guys had started out originally, right? So what was that like? And did you guys pivot around that, or how did you work around that?
Yeah, absolutely. So our bread and butter as a business was we were investing in equity, and we were allowing our investors to co-invest with us on a global scale. And we built the technology to allow people to invest in many of these companies, like you said, companies like Bitfinex, Kraken, Bitstamp, and many others. Suddenly in 2017, we found ourselves in a situation where we were getting calls from our clients we were about to do rounds for, and they were like, we're not going to be selling any equity now. We're selling tokens. I'm like, okay, cool. And then we get another call, and then we get another call. And then suddenly there was no equity left. And all of our investors stopped investing through the platform, and they were all investing in tokens. Why would you invest in equity when you could get an instant 10x, sometimes 100x return in a token just from straight off the back? So the market changed. The market was giving us a message. we'd been working on securities law, so we knew that these things were going to be securities, but our investors and our companies were giving us a different message, so we had to adjust. We built a process for selling tokens in compliance with securities laws, that apart from with the exception of Telegram, none of those companies had some of the challenges that people are facing right now with securities laws. But yeah, we had to pivot.
Yeah. So, in terms of like where you guys are at now, in terms of the team and where you guys are based, are you distributed, and how big is the team?
Yeah, so we're really distributed. Our model has always been that, so we originally started in the UK, and our first mission and our first contribution was changing the laws in the UK way back in 2010 to allow for the investing online. That later led to, in 2012, to President Obama signing the Jobs Act after seeing what happened in the UK. And then that later led to getting traction during the ICO wave. And now we're back to this interesting place now. But in terms of our team, we had to pivot from being a local regulated business to looking for a global structure. So we registered with the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority, a very globally minded regulator. And then we have companies that are locally regulated. So if a UK investor uses our platform, they'd go through our UK FCA company or broker. If someone's from the US, they'd go through our US broker-dealer. And so we use a global model, but then you have to adhere to local structures, and we have a very complex structure that we've developed over the last decade.
Very cool. So, started out in the UK. That's great. In terms of like traction and KPIs, how do you guys measure success right now with like this kind of moving target of the industry? Like ICOs came in and really changed the game for you guys. In terms of like KPIs, what do you guys measure, and what is success?
Yeah, so success to us, I could give you some KPIs, which we're proud of. We've had $800 million invested in funding rounds on our platform over the decade. We've done over 100 different funding rounds. We've got a very selective portfolio, and fortunately, 6 or 7 of those have gone on to become multi-billion-dollar unicorns. But our real success is not how much funds we raise, it's whether our investors are happy. So we've got 85,000 accredited investors. Of those, about 5,000 of them are still active. And they've invested and made an average of about 14 different companies in their portfolio. And we measure our success in terms of how they invest again and again and again, based upon whether they've had a good experience or not. So, some of the things that we look at, and it's very unique for each deal. So the investors that got into Kraken from the Series A to the Series B, that was a 200x return that outperformed Bitcoin in a 3-year period. We had Bitstamp that was acquired by a Korean company that produced an exit. We got loads of investors into Bitcoin early because we set up a fund that was paying Bitcoin every day, paid out thousands of Bitcoin at a low of $250. We created an Ethereum security that was paying out thousands of Ether at a low of about $1 before it peaked. So this is the type of things. It's long-term, it's high risk, it's high return. 2017 was disruptive. It was our most profitable year, obviously, because the industry produced so much opportunity in 2017, but it wasn't sustainable. And we're looking for the real wealth from our investors has been generated when they invested early, they rode it out, and they had a 5 to 10 year time frame. And that's the real wealthy people, not the trade. I met many people that made a lot of money in 2017 and lost it all because they were speculating too hard, and they just didn't have a long enough time frame. This is a game-changing technology. This is the transformation of our entire financial system, one product at a time. The returns are going to be there. You've got to diversify widely, and it's the most exciting time in human history to be alive in financial innovation.
Yeah, I totally agree. The whole concept of tokenized assets, we talk about that on the channel quite a lot with my project Grow Your Base. And I think that in terms of STOs, you mentioned on stage, like, what is it that's keeping investors back from investing in STOs, if there is any hesitancy right now?
So we've identified 3 security token adoption blockers. From investing in many companies. We did the securitized funding round. We were investors in Polymath. And we've been experimenting with the technology a lot ourselves. We're about to launch BFX, our decentralized yet compliant security token exchange, and we're about to do our own security token, BFXT. What we've identified is that, firstly, everyone's selling liquidity, but there is no liquidity. There will be liquidity, we believe, but that's going to take a while to get there. It was just like in our, ICOs was first. We started investing around about 2013 in Mastercoin, MadeSafe, Storage, Factor, and these different ones. But it wasn't until 2017 that they started to get liquid. So that's like a 4-year time frame from conceptualization to liquidity. I imagine a similar thing here. 2018 was really security tokens. Maybe 2022, 23 is when we'll start to see real liquidity. The other thing is that when you're pitching institutional investors, they're just not comfortable holding crypto tokens yet. So they say if they like the investment, they'll say, yeah, I'll take it, but can you take the token out of the way? Then if you pitch a crypto investor and you say something like, here's a tokenized real estate investment trust that pays an 8% annual return, they look at you and say, what, I've got to give my Bitcoin to a middleman and you're going to give me 8%? I'd rather just keep my Bitcoin. So, you've got to find a product, and that's what we've been working on, that satisfies the way that institutions are used to investing, at the same time as attracting the high risk, high return profile of the crypto investor. And it has to make sense if liquidity takes a while to achieve. And so that's what the things that we look for when we're analyzing how we're going to get the first security token adoption and the types of products that we're going to launch.
That's awesome. I like that you guys have identified blockers, because that's important to figure out what the bottleneck is and then work your product into the way of that. So thank you so much for sitting down. Where can people find out more about BnkToTheFuture?
Yeah, just head over to BnkToTheFuture.com. We're on Telegram, we're on Twitter, but start at BnkToTheFuture.com. You can see all our links and you can go to different products and you can see everything there.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sitting down, Simon.